Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's it, done? Okay.
Hey, Jeff, are they having one Friday? Are they having one next Friday? Next Friday, yeah, every Friday. Okay. That's just a permanent thing. Yep.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm actually killing time a little bit on purpose because Rashida is going to be here at about 7:30, so I wanted to give her a tiny bit of cushion. But we expect she'll be on time. I was in touch with her, what do they call them in politics, her handlers, for several times back and forth. So we should be expecting to see her right on time for our needs for her tonight. So welcome, everybody. It's nice to see such a nice crowd, and I know you came to hear Rashida Tlaib. We will also be, sometime I believe in January, we'll also be welcoming Congressman Andy Levin, and he'll be speaking to us specifically on the topic of his two-state solution legislation that he's proposed. A lot of you may have gotten a fundraiser about that. I know I did. That's how I first heard about it. And then it was reported in the Jewish News and in other places. So we'll be hearing from him. Next week, we're hearing from Laura De Palma from NARAL, now known as American Pro-Choice. And she'll be talking to us about some of the extreme challenges we have coming up for those of us who are interested in the right of reproductive freedom for women in this country. We'll also be hearing on the following Friday from Rabbi Moshe Givental. He's involved in the sustainability movement, and he'll be talking to us about all things eco-Jewish. So some things to look forward to. Then we'll take a little break, I believe, after that for Thanksgiving, and have some exciting programs coming up in the wake of that. Our readers tonight are Sybil Offen, Elaine Fieldman, Mike Whitty, Gail Whitty, and our candle lighting will be Shelley and Henry Pinckney, whom I'll call up in just a moment. And Arthur, if you would do the honors of flipping to the first slide, we'll begin with this. This is the promise of Shabbat. After noise, we seek quiet. After crowds of indifferent strangers, we seek to touch those we love. After concentration on work and responsibility, we seek freedom to meditate, to listen to our inward selves. We open our eyes to the hidden beauties and the infinite possibilities in the world we are creating. We break open the gates of the reservoirs of goodness and kindness in ourselves and in others to reach toward one beautiful moment of Shabbat. I'd like to invite Henry and Shelley to please light our candles.
Baruch haor ba'olam, Baruch haor ba'adam, Baruch haor ba'shalom, ba'shalom, Baruch haor, Baruch haor, ba'shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. The days flow into one another without interruption. Time races on. Shabbat is our means to divert time, a stepping off point, pausing with friends and loved ones to observe, then rejoice in the wonder-filled coincidence of living. There can be a sense of pleasure in every given breath, blessed with tastes to savor and warmth to give and to receive. Bestowed with gifts of sight and sound, we are obliged to cherish and revel in each smile, in every musical note. Shabbat also awakens us to the silence between notes. It speaks of contemplation, the quiet delight of literature, of unhurried walks, of rare conversation. Shabbat can be our interlude, our ritual pause in this lively current, our signal to step more lightly, to appreciate more profoundly, to dive more deeply into the questions that life is posing.
Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShalom, Shomrei Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Rodefei HaShalom, Shalom Aleichem. Bochem l'Shalom, Ohavei HaShalom, Tzeitem l'Shalom. Miyom Zelayamim Habayim, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShalom, Shomrei Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Rodefei HaShalom, Shalom Aleichem. Bochem l'Shalom, Ohavei HaShalom, Tzeitem l'Shalom. Miyom Zelayamim Habayim, Shalom Aleichem.
We long to be here for a purpose, even though, despite much self-deception, none is evident. The significance of our lives and our fragile planet is determined only by our own wisdom and courage. We are the custodians of life's meaning. We long for a parent to care for us, to forgive us our errors, to save us from our childish mistakes. But knowledge is better than ignorance, better by far to embrace the hard truth than reassuring faith. Modern science has been a voyage into the unknown with a lesson in humility, waiting at every stop. Our common sense intuitions can be mistaken. Our preferences do not count. We do not live in privileged reference frame. If we crave some cosmic purpose, then let us find a worthy goal.
My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you. And in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you.
These things inhibit speech, but they also inhibit your sight. I can't see when I have a mask on. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then goodness encompasses our lives and we can begin to change the world.
For generations, our people spoke of their tradition as perfect and everlasting. They extol the Torah as a tree of life, filled with eternal truths to which we must hold fast in all times and ages. Experience has taught us a different story. There are no precepts or wisdom that endure forever. People change, societies mature, needs expand, cultures adapt. This precludes any source of ultimate righteousness that is true and altogether just. Our messy reality demands acceptance that righteousness and justice lay not in a book or in some mysterious realm beyond our reach. The burden of humanity's fate is ours alone to bear. Even the rabbis of old understood that all the Torah study in the world would never be enough to make a difference. The human condition can only improve by the work of our own hands. It's our obligation and ours alone to create a world based upon justice, truth, and peace.
Sing the song of people joined in understanding and respect. Sing the song of life's wonders and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. Sing the song of lands once ravished by wars, now quiet and content, their soldiers home to leave no more. Sing the song of a world redeemed. Sing the song of peace.
In this community, where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, and those who have been wronged. Tonight, our well wishes are extended to these members of our community and their loved ones, to Joe Gaden, to Julie Eliason, Karen Tremper-Harris, and Rabbi Peter Schweitzer. And if there's someone whom you're thinking about, we'll go around the room, starting over here, and you can feel free to share their names. Jerry?
Matthew Snow.
Thank you. Anybody else up here on the side? Jean?
Leffie Howell.
Sandy?
Alan Peister.
Anybody else on this side? Moving over here. Yes.
Mike Edenberg and Richard Sherhart.
Ned? Did we miss anyone at all? May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a refuah shlema, a complete recovery, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. "'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a sacred thing to love. For your life has lived in me, Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a sacred thing, to love what death has touched. Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. As many of you know, this week marked 3 years since the most deadly anti-Semitic attack in American history, where 11 precious people were slaughtered in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life congregation. Before we read the yard sites for our own loved ones, I'd like to remember each of them. Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. We remember, too, those who, from among our loved ones, are remembered on this yard site: Leonard Fox, Norma Geltner, Isaac Kaplan, Carolyn Lederman, Abe Rosenshine, Faye Weiss-Rubin, and Eli Weinstein. If there's someone whom you're thinking about, as we did earlier for those who were ill, we'll go around the room, starting over here. If you have some name of someone whom you remember, start with Jerry. Thank you. Anybody here along the side? Down in this area. Yes, Miriam. Thank you. Amy. Anybody else I missed here in the middle? On this side? Yes, Paula.
Robert Allen Barron.
Elisa? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank you. I didn't realize you were pointing. Yes.
Beverly Hurwitz.
Is there anybody that we missed? Yes. Earl Redner. I also want to remember tonight a longtime member of our congregation. She had not been a member for quite a few many years, but I'm sure you all heard this week that Bobby Litwin died just a couple of days ago. You may not know that she and I had a friendship that transcended her membership in the congregation, and her funeral will be Sunday, and I'll miss her very much, as I know many of you will. We say, Yehi zichram livracha. May the memories of those who have gone before us bless our lives, and by this we mean that we seek comfort in those memories, some measure of which can help us face these days in their absence. If you can do so comfortably, please rise for a humanistic interpretation of Kaddish. We read together, Nit gadal v'nit kadash beruach ha'adam. Let us dignify and ennoble all people in the spirit of our shared humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May justice and peace permeate and comfort the house of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Please be seated. I'm gathering from the look in the back of the room that our guest has yet to arrive. Okay. Despite my stretching out the service a little bit, we'll take a moment to talk about what's going to happen after Thanksgiving. How about that? We will be on December 3rd celebrating our first in-person, super supper, Hanukkah dinner. It'll be at 6 o'clock on Friday, December 3rd. And I have to say, I have never experienced a politician arriving on exactly the right moment. This is a first. So thank you. I'm going to give you a 1-minute introduction, but please have a seat right here, Congresswoman. Thank you. Wow, I got a little bit scared, and then I thought to myself, no, not her. And boy, was I right. Rashida Tlaib, whom I know that many of you came here to hear tonight in addition to our service, is a well-known progressive activist. In her own words, a mother working for justice for all. Her 2 young sons, she said, are the root of her unwavering passion to help change lives for the better. She's the oldest of 14 children, born and raised in Detroit, the proud daughter of Palestinian immigrant parents. She rose to public leadership by, among other grassroots efforts, organizing a movement to force Matty Maroon, that great civic citizen, to follow the law and remove polluting semi-trucks off neighborhood streets, even as large piles of black dust started showing up on the Detroit riverfront and blowing into homes and parks, while the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality assured residents everything was fine. Where have we heard that before? Representative Tlaib collected samples which revealed the cancer-causing petroleum coke as a threat. She was an attorney, I guess you still belong to the firm, of Sugar Law Center for Economic and Social Justice, where she's led the effort to remove emergency managers, thank God I think they're gone, reform state agencies, and promote equitable development. In 2008, she made history by becoming the first Muslim woman to ever serve in the Michigan legislature, and in 2019, she was elected Congresswoman for Michigan's 13th Congressional District, which includes the city of Detroit and many surrounding communities. She's joining us tonight with an update on her work on what's going on in Congress, as she and as her assistant and I spoke about, particularly on immigration justice, of great interest to our congregation, and safe water in Michigan and throughout the U.S. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. I really, salams, peace to all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me to share space with all of you. Julie, hey, Barb, hi. Hey. It is really, truly an honor to be able to do some of the movement work as a member of the United States Congress, and to be able to share with you all of the incredible, I think, ways of elevating the voices of many of my residents. So some of you know I'm the girl from Southwest Detroit. I'm Rashida. Everybody knows me. I mean, it's interesting because when I got to Congress, it was people in Southwest Detroit or Barb or Fran. I mean, everybody's like, well, that's just Rashida. Like, well, I don't get it. They made such a big deal out of, whoever, all these things. But I'm just Rashida. But it's interesting because, like, I'm that Palestinian. Like, literally, I'm like a walking bill or something. It's a Palestinian. And it's interesting because every time any of my colleagues meet another Palestinian, they're like, oh, Rashida. It's like, we're not all related. But it's okay, and I have an open door policy. You could talk to me about your doctor who's Palestinian. But, in Southwest Detroit, 20 different ethnicities. I mean, I really had no idea. I mean, when I tell people I thought that smell was normal, I think people don't understand what I mean. I mean, I smell like that rotten eggs, when, it smell when I came back in the house. And I even now, if I smell it, I'm like, it reminds me of my childhood. And even just the smokestacks, everything, I thought all of it. I thought that many trucks was normal. I really thought it was completely normal to have that many trucks running through your community until I went away for school, until I kind of saw other communities and I realized, oh my God, this is not normal. And then, fast forward, I think some of the things that happened in high school was the first time I ever understood, like, our immigration system is broken. One of my classmates, contemplated suicide because she, for the first time, her parents sat her down. She was one of the top 10 students at Southwestern High. And she found out she was undocumented and had no idea, and that meant she had no pathway to higher education, and she was just devastated. And, you know, I just didn't understand what's undocumented. I don't understand, you know, and I'm fully trying to like comprehend, like, you know, how do I help her? How do I fix this? You know, being the eldest of 14, I've been taking care of people all my life, so I'm like, let me fix this. I can fix this. And then obviously, I just, again, did not realize how incredibly broken some of these systems are, and, you know, got involved in politics in that way. You know, my dad, you know, only went up to 4th grade education, my mother 8th grade education. My dad went from Jerusalem, that kid, every time we complained about raking leaves or shoveling the snow, he's like, when I was in Utz, Jerusalem, I carried groceries on my back, and you guys, for nothing. And you guys you complain about leaves and snow, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. But, you know, okay. But my dad, you know, with 4th grade education, when he was about 9 or 10 years old, my grandmother decided to go to Nicaragua, and that's where her sister Rashida was, who I'm named after. And, you know, found more poverty and decay there, and so much, you know, I think, pain of living in that kind of poverty. And so at 19 years old, he came to the United States, and honestly, he was the guy in the 70s that would put his arm out and say, which watch you want? That was my dad. And, you know, you guys know, you know, he hustled, that's what he did. And, you know, it was when, and this is no exaggeration, I mean, literally, he said the only time he ever fully understood what it means to have human dignity was when he became a Ford Motor Company worker, but a UAW member. And no, he said he instantly felt it. And he said, it was like, no matter that they had more power, the boss, or the top, you know, it didn't matter. It's like all of us were one, no matter the education level, no matter our background, no matter if you're black, white, whatever it was, we were all one. And it just, you know, for him, he became, it's okay, Julie, he became a Democrat. And so he was a hardcore Democrat, you know, it's just like, first time he ever voted ever in his life was in the United States. And we had all these lawn signs growing up. And there are people that like, I was like, Dad, we can't vote for him. It doesn't matter. You know, he picks it up from the Union Hall, and he puts it in front of our house in Southwest Detroit. And it's like, that's, you know, he's on duty. And when I turned 18, he didn't say like, happy birthday, honey. He was like, go register to vote. So it really was embedded in us. But, you know, this is the pathway or whatever that led me into all of these things of injustice. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe my friend can't go to college. I can't believe she can't continue on to her dreams. I can't believe that all my friends have asthma, or that, you know, like we live in this like environment where honestly just felt less than. And we don't really, you know, as a kid, you don't realize all of this, right? Because I think my parents did a good job kind of shielding us a little bit from it, except my mom sometimes reminded me. But I think it is important to know that, so that when I say to people, I can't build back better, and tell me to build back better if children are being poisoned with lead. I just can't. So we got to get closer to doing that. In what I call the Mansion Bill, people call it all kinds of names, y'all, and it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. The point is, it's the Highway Roads Bill, and they put $15 billion to remove lead out of water, out of our pipes, replacing lead contaminated pipes. And the organizations, everything that tells us we need to get closer to 60 to totally eliminate lead out of the pipes around the country. And so the next step was, okay, what can we do with the Build Back Better plan? You know, we started at 6 trillion, get down to 3.5. Then, you know, okay, everybody's like, Rashida, don't concentrate on dollar amount. And I don't, because I think implementation and effectiveness of what those programs are is equally important, right? Because you can throw money at something and it's just totally broken, and somebody like my mother would never get access to it. But we got 30 billion more. I mean, that gets us closer to, 45 billion, right? Well, now it's down to 9 billion, and we'll talk about it later, as I cried a little bit. But you know, at this point, I know that they know that this is one of the top priorities for myself and other colleagues who, you know, for us, when you think of infrastructure, one of the most important things that is life is water. how can we send our kids to school with drinking fountains covered in a garbage bag because it's shut down because there's so much lead? How can we, expect, I think Shirley Chisholm, the first African-American woman is to serve in the United States Congress and teach your children about her. Amazing. But she would say, children can't learn if they're hungry, right? And people are like, oh my God, we can't do free lunch program. We can't afford it. Can you imagine our country without the free lunch program? Right? These are like the big ideas that everybody kind of like rolls their eyes or whatever. Got it done, right? And where did the free lunch program come from? Movement work, in New York. And I mean, these are things that to know. So when I say we got to get the lead out, people are like, oh, it's impossible. It's 20, 30 years. I was like, no, we can start now. We can get it done. If it's of urgency, we can make it a priority. Because I'm telling you, children can't learn if they're being poisoned with lead because it impacts how they learn. It impacts how their brains develop. It's in their DNA and it gets transferred into their children's DNA. I don't know if there's physicians in here, but I mean, being serious. This is important to understand the true impact of not getting clean water into homes, into schools, into making sure that the public access of water is not contaminated with lead. And so we're working hard on that. And then, of course, I introduced Water as a Human Right Act, and this is something that, really would ban any water shutoffs in our nation. This would basically say, got to go towards affordability, but also, that's it, water is a human right. You cannot cut people off of water. It's just not humane to do that. And so with some of that advocacy effort, we did get $1.1 billion. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell has been instrumental in being my partner on this. She's amazing. And that helped fund a lot of it. And let me tell you, how I said implementation matters. So we get the $1.1 billion, right? And we're like, yay, this is great. They were like, oh, we're going to pay the back bills, but Congresswoman, it doesn't pay for the reconnection fees. I was like, what do you mean? Oh, you're going to pay the $300 or $400 they owe, and then it doesn't cover the $80 for the contractor to go out and reconnect them? That's what I mean by implementation. So of course we changed that, and I was going to have Julie sue them if not. But I mean, it was definitely, I'm picking on her, but it's definitely some issue that I think for us to understand, don't always look at, oh, this is how much. Look at how it's implemented. Is it equitable? Is it accessible? Because my God, they were like, oh, well, Congresswoman Tlaib, we don't understand. I said, listen, it's on their bill. Just look at people's bill. Make sure it's all covered. And then you got Detroit Water Sewage Department, Gary Brown telling me, oh, well, this doesn't require us to reconnect. I said, then you can't have the money. Don't take the money. And so I'm like, why are you taking the money? That's the whole point of the federal government, trying to give money to keep people's water back on, is you got to reconnect. That's the incentive. Take the money from the federal government, our dollars, our American tax dollars, and put it towards getting people access to water. So that's something I'm really passionate about. Now, immigration. Know this, in Build Back Better, we have had a plan A, didn't work. Plan B, didn't work. We're on plan C, but have faith. Plan C, that we hope, and I can explain a little further, there is a parliamentarian issue, this process person, that can easily be, taken out of the equation and nicely, and asking her to leave and replace the person. And they've done it a bunch of times, not 100 times, but a bunch of times they've done this. But the parliamentarian says, look, in the Build Back Better plan, which is part of this called reconciliation, there are certain things you can't do. It has to be investments, right? They can say, well, that's not true. There's a bird rule. It's named after something. It doesn't follow the process or that rule to keep immigration in there. So Plan C is going to be like a parole process. This would give folks ability to not fear deportation. Check, that's important. And then create a pathway to citizenship that way. So we're hoping that works. We want the language, we want it to go through the Senate, we want to see how far it goes before a lot of us, because it's one of the top priorities for us. So Congressional Progressive Caucus, about 90 of us now, 90 strong. Yes, and our 5 priorities are housing, immigration, climate, care economy, and there's one more. Hold on, there's one more. Did I say climate already? Yes. Oh, there's one more. What is it? Health. Well, that's the care economy. No, I don't think it's education. I'll remember it. I'll remember it. It might be the care economy stuff around paid sick, paid leave, and then maybe the other one is the expansion on hearing and dental and vision. I think that's what the fifth one is. So those are our 5 priorities because we surveyed everyone. That's the one. That's what we said to the president. That's what we said to the Senate leadership. This is what we need as a progressive caucus to move forward, and we've been pretty committed to that. Oh wow. I think it's so. I mean, these are things that we're working at. So right now, the Build Back Better framework, everybody calls it. That's something new, I guess, in DC. I've never heard of such a thing. But it's basically what the results of the negotiations have been. And yes, it cut significantly, as you heard from lead, 30 to 9 billion, and across the board on housing, it was about 350 billion. On housing is now down to 150 billion. So you're seeing a lot of these cuts, and it looks like, you know, it got cut in half. Again, you know, you're going to hear folks saying, you know, child tax credit will be for 1 year instead of, I think what we wanted to do, really, our intention as Progressive Caucus to make it permanent. There are not far enough on climate at all. And to be honest, all this got cut because, you know, a couple of, particularly one senator did not like the revenue process, so taxing the wealthy. Yeah. So every time they cut the pathway to the revenue that would pay for it, because we want to make sure we're paying for it. It's very popular to pay for it, even though we seem to have $768 billion for a defense bill. I don't know how we pay for that. But the point is, it's important to know every time they cut the revenue part of it, that means programs get cut. So, I mean, I want to open up for questions and Build Back Better, and of course, open up any questions other folks have on other issues. But Rabbi, thank you so much. And Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I know it's you know, thank you so much.
So in the old days, we used to pass the mic, but what we'll do now is raise your hand. I'll call on you, and I will repeat the question. Mike Whitty.
Rashida,
Yes, Mike.
could you share with the congregation the origins of your friendship and collaboration with Andy Levin,
Oh.
part of the Progressive Caucus,
Yeah.
but I understood you became friends in the Granholm administration.
Well, so actually, it was when Detroit Jews for.
The question is about the Congresswoman's friendship with Andy Levin.
Yeah. So Andy and I go way back because not only in the Granholm administration, when I was a state rep, I don't think he was specifically just there, but I know him from the work he did with Detroit Jews for Justice. They were one of the key organizations we work with to stop water shutoffs. And also, he approached me, I think when I was at Sugar Law Center, about community benefits, and talked to me about what happened in LA and California and how the labor community helped get the first legally binding community benefits agreement with the LAX airport expansion.
Who else has a question? Marty.
What do you think our response should be to the thousands of people that have shown up at our southern border in this last 3 months?
So the question is about the southern border and the folks that are showing up there.
Look, we don't have a system that's humane right now. And I think our communities, especially us, all of us, understand what it means when you're coming to meet, instead of meeting folks with violence and this kind of pushback, if they are there to ask for asylum, which is legal in our country, we should create a pathway for that. And we should create a process for that, because right now that is not happening. And it's all folks coming to board and saying, if I go back, I'll die. Please don't send me back. And so we have to support and honor our asylum process, which is basically, you know, this is how we became a country that is a safe haven for so many that have been persecuted, and so and don't feel safe in their country. So I've been working specifically on creating kind of, you know, TPS programs, anything to create a pathway around the fact that the whole asylum process at the border has just been broken down. And know this, I think everyone understands it is, but I don't know why there's not a will and a courage to actually invest into redoing it. And, you know, they'll tell me, well, the Trump administration, Rashida, you know, it's true. They didn't, it's called the Office of Refugee Resettlement. They didn't send out a contract again to renew it. So they didn't send a request for proposal out to bring in contracts to continue that so they had to start kind of all over again, the Biden administration. But now they're there. And let me tell you, our thing is keep them out of Customs, Border and Patrol, because they haven't been held accountable. I mean, they're really rogue. And I've been very, very public about how all the information that comes in shows that it's the same Trump CPB that it is now as a Biden CPB. I mean, nothing has changed in how they approach it. And I'm not talking just about the whipping of Black immigrants, Haitian refugees at the border. I am also talking about what I heard when I went to the border of literally ripping children apart, of treating women, I mean, you know, some of the abuse towards women, some of just the malnutrition. I mean, some of them don't even get, like, if they get the blanket, it's the one with the foil, like, on the side, and just different things like that. I mean, it's just awful. Women told us about how when they get their menstrual cycle, they have to figure out what to do because they're not providing anything, hygiene products, anything like that. I mean, this is the reality of the fact that, again, we have a system at the border that is not, and people say, well, there's so many. If you look at the past and how we've been able to do it, it's because we created like pathways to be able to say, okay, we got your information. Oh, you have a family member here? Great. Have you stay there until you have your day in front of the judge to figure out what your case is, or if you're going to be in front of an immigration caseworker, whoever it is. We're not doing that. We're saying, stop, go back, don't come here.
Other questions? Yes, Paula.
Hi, Paula. I feel like we all protested together at some point.
We knew each other then. I'm concerned that the Democrats are hurting themselves because nothing will get passed.
Yeah.
And it's so precarious for the next election. Now, I'm interested in your view. I agree with all your points.
Of course.
I'm interested in your view, like pushing, and nothing gets passed. I think that's such a horrendous disaster. And
Yeah.
my question is, have you thought about if something gets passed and Democrats are able to get a larger majority in the coming election, can any of that be rectified to plump it up and make it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, I always tell them it's also going to impact turnout if we don't get Build Back Better done. And that's the truth. I mean, I represent the third poorest congressional district. They passed poverty. They breathed in pollution. They're dealing with some of the most egregious kind of systems that have really structurally racist during pandemic. I mean, it's just a number of things. So what I want to tell you is I'm hopeful that we're going to get it done. And I'm hopeful because, you know, now these two senators, and they had to hear it out, they're now in real negotiations. I mean, today I heard Sinema wants paid leave back in. Yeah. So, you know, again, I'm hoping, I know I got to knock on some wood, Rabbi. But things change all the time. I just don't like it that your access to this information is the media and they really sensationalize it. This is really negotiations. And yes, I want it to be transparent, but it's almost like you should hear what they ask me. They don't ask me what's in it or they're like, oh, so what do you think? Do you think cinema should just be, you know, I was like, no, can you ask me about water? Ask me what's in it. And so to answer your question, of course you should worry, but you should worry also that everything Biden promised actually gets done. Because he promised these things, right? And people remember that. They remember all of those things. Know this, that we're in jeopardy no matter what to lose the majority, because what I see is that there is inspiration that is pulling out and inspiring the other side, or whatever we want to call them, to come out, right? There's somebody that's like, wow, these folks wouldn't come out to vote for anybody but this person. I mean, they literally are not. If you look at their voting record, it's not like they're committed voters that come out every time or anything. They come out because he's on top of the ticket. So we got to worry about that, and that how do we get our people? How do they inspire? They're going to be inspired by what we can get done. Because if we do the half measure stuff that we've done in the 1990s and all these other things that we've done, I really feel like you're going to lose districts like mine. They're not going to be inspired to come out. They really aren't. If you look at the drop from 2008 when President Obama was on top of the ticket, my God, I've never had a turnout like that again, because the second time it dropped. And so we can't keep doing it the same way we've always done it. And it's going to get done. And unfortunately, you know, President Biden and I may not see, I always tell him, I said, Mr. President, you know, he goes, I need your help on this, you know, and I said, Mr. President, we want the same thing. We have the same goal. I'm just on a different timeline than you. Like you want it in 10 years. And I was like, my folks don't got 10 years. So you know, I won't be your favorite, but you'll know always directly from me, like where I stand on these issues. And I will work with you on this. But he got 96% of us on board. 96, you got the extreme, you know, the folks that might be the more moderate, whatever they label us, and then you got me, you know, the Democratic Socialist on board. I mean, so 96% of us on board. And then there's these two, and then there, you know, I'm just, sorry, Rabbi. But, you know, I just want you to know, like, please don't think that, I think it's a success that we gotten to this point where we've done it. What's so great is my colleagues, some of them been there 20 years, are saying the same thing because they're like, we went through the Obama, we remember, this is not going to work. Stop talking about bipartisanship. They don't care. They want Biden to fail. They want us to fail. They want to take over the majority. We can't let them do it. Let's get child care. Let's get water out of the, you know, lead out of the water. So I'm more inspired by that, and people are more motivated by that. And I want us to try this way, just once, to say, let's deliver on what we promised. And I really think we're getting close to it.
Tom?
Rashida,
Yeah.
in world politics, what worries you the most? Trump, Hungary?
Oh, I don't know. I just all. I mean, I honestly, what worries me the most is what do they call that? I'm a child of immigrants. I can't remember. You know, when people are just like, it doesn't matter if I vote. I don't care. Yes, that worries me the most in our country.
Apathy.
So apathy, because you guys know that we have more school board openings now in Michigan, like 1,000 or something crazy like that. Like, because people have left, because they've been yelled at, death threats, everything. And I think that's gonna lead to people saying, this is just too toxic for me. Because some people are not, you know, I mean, you know, my therapist, yeah, I'm back in therapy. My therapist, you know, I told her one of my days, and she goes to me, like, she was concerned. She goes, how do you cope with that? And I go, I just quit in my head. She goes, what? I said, I quit. I just quit. I pretend I'm not a Congress member. I just quit for, like, you know, it's like taking a nap. And she goes, your whole face lit up. And I said, because I need to just remember I'm a mom, I'm regular, you know, not into this, like, environment that I have no control over right now, right? But it is, my biggest worry is in our country, because it gets so toxic, people are just like, I'm done. I don't want, and that worries me, because then those folks get louder, they get more powerful, and it's happening already. We got amazing school board members that had the courage to say, put masks on, right? They had the courage to say, let me follow the science. And you know, we're losing those folks. There are women, especially women of color, that are seeing the attacks on us and many of us, and they don't want to run for office. They're like, no, I'm not doing it. And so just, you know, that is what worries me about our democracy, is we're not going to get folks in there that are courageous. We may get, you know, folks that are in there that are going to stay on the line and not push back hard enough to say, we need a Voting Rights Act, we need to abolish the filibuster. I mean, we need those type of folks running for office in these institutions, again, that, you know, that really weren't made for people like us.
Natan.
Hi. Hi, how are you? It's a long time no see. I know, where you been? Yeah.
You know, after the fall of Saigon, if you remember, the United States, well,
yeah, I know. It's okay.
We read about it.
the United States accepted, and not only the United States government saw to it that countries, a lot of countries in the West accepted Vietnamese refugees, and we have so many. And I don't believe that we were less racist at that time than we are today.
That's right.
So how do you say, what's the purpose? What's the reason that the environment got so poisoned that you can't even talk about people coming from Syria that needed out, or
I don't know. I want you to know this. It is bipartisan. So the question is the false God and everything. And even at that time, you know, the anti-immigrant sentiment and rhetoric was even higher back then. And why now, when we have people in Afghanistan? I mean, we ruined the country 20 years, right? I mean, you know, we have Syrians, all these folks that are fleeing, again, violence, fleeing wars. How come we haven't been leading with compassion, I would say, when it comes to those refugees? And so, you know, this time around, I find that it's not just one party. I see it in both my own party and others that don't want to touch this or don't want to even acknowledge that those issues. It's interesting to see some colleagues are doing, you know, there's this thing called 1 minute. You can get up and you talk about anybody, somebody's birthday, a death, or honoring a you know, breast cancer awareness, whatever it is. And a lot of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have been coming up talking about, you know, I helped this person from Afghanistan come to our country, you know, I helped it, you know, and they don't realize, they're all doing it one by one. They don't realize, you know, why them? Why aren't you understanding that it's a whole system that is not, you know, there's somebody else being left because you had a friend, who served there, tell you about this translator, then saying, come, but what about that child that wasn't the translator? What about, you know, the number of, you know, women-led organizations that are like, now we, you know, we don't know what to do, we're gonna get targeted. I mean, so I wanna tell you, like, there are people like myself and Pramila Jayapal and others who are saying, we can't vote for Build Back Better unless we have something in there around immigration. But I want you guys to be louder. I mean, I think, you know, I've learned something about transformative change in our country, and it really doesn't happen because of who's in the White House or who's in Congress. It happens because of the movement work on the ground. I mean, you think the Civil Rights Act got passed? No, it got passed because of, you know, boycotts, marches, people demanding it, building the intersectionality work, right, between different communities and understanding, you know, if my black neighbor can't own a home, then that hurts me, you know, or hurts our country, whatever it is. But the point, you know, even organizing in the workplace, that didn't happen because somebody said, oh my God, we believe in unions in the White House or in Congress. It happened because people demanded it. On the streets. And so I just hope we demand it and we keep pushing and saying we can't do this. It's wrong. You know, we've tried I have colleagues that have tried using scriptures, I mean, we've tried everything in that sense of trying to pull strings on the hearts of some of my colleagues who don't want to fix or create a pathway for our asylum system to work anymore. It's like they're allowing it to deteriorate by allowing the programs to deteriorate. So then we got Border Patrol whipping black immigrants on the border.
Nabil.
Hi, أهلين Nabil, how are you? ندى بتسلم عليك. Dana بتسلم عليك. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to ask a question no one asked me. I thought you're coming to talk about some other stuff, but what you talk about is fantastic. It's very relevant.
Oh, Rabbi wanted to talk about water and immigration.
I actually got that from your people.
Since Nathan, my good friend Nathan, started about Afghanistan, I'm going to move a little bit west of me, back to Palestine.
Yeah.
I'm from Lebanon.
Is Brother Renee here?
No.
Oh.
Oh, here he is.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there you are. Hello. Thank you for the invitation. And my son wants to meet you. Yeah. No, he really does.
I was wondering what he is, because the one that invited me told us.
No, Renee invited me. We had a very, I don't know, I call it my life-changing conversation. So I thank you for that.
So the question that I have is, going to the Middle East, which is a huge issue, which seems to kind of like die and become, okay. So every time the thing dies, wait until flare-up happens, war happens, 300-400 people get killed, 10,000 buildings get demolished, and then the stuff hits the fan. And then Congress, and then people start doing whatever they're doing in Congress, in the government, in the United States government, and then it dies. And then wait for another flare, and then it flares up again. What the hell is going on? I don't understand this. Israel just announced 3,000 homes 2 days ago. This is, I mean, to say it's infuriating is beyond description. And all of those people that I'm sick and tired of here 40 years, and I've seen it progress. But the progress is so minimal. It is so minimal. It's dismal.
it is disgusting. I would be so frustrated if the United States government was so goddamn complicit in the support of the brutality of Israel against the Palestinians.
Yeah, I mean, our country, our country funds a lot of oppression, a lot of really awful policies in other countries, not only in Palestine. But I can tell you this, you know, again, what I said about movement work on the ground, more, you know, what I tell my family in Palestine all the time. I think it was my cousin who said, when I got elected, of course it was shock, right? I don't know if you remember, my mother came and wrapped a Palestinian flag around me, and that was a huge, my mother was just so proud, right? She just wraps it around me, right? Like, and you know, I didn't expect that, and people were like, what is that? What is the American flag? And you know, my mother is just, that was her way of just like honoring of who she is and where she came from in many ways. And so my grandmother, on the other hand, wakes up in the West Bank in the small village. It's like 700 people. It's a very small village. And media's out in the front of her house, you know, just imagine. She, of course, you got to see how she usually dresses. And she ran in to wear her best Palestinian Tlaib dress. And she comes back out, and they were like, oh my God, your granddaughter is like a congresswoman. You don't know what that is, you know. And she, and they were like, what do you think? And the first thing that she says is in Arabic, Hallat Palestine. She said Hallat Palestine. Hallat, yeah, but she said Hallat Fallahi, Hallat Fallahi, which means, she goes, Palestine is free now. And I'm like, no, Siti, that's not how it works. No, that's not how it works. But she just, that's her interpretation. But, you know, I don't think, like, I didn't expect what I think I expected of me being, you know, because there was another Palestinian, I mean, there was other Palestinians in Congress. I think there was Justin Amash and others, but the kind of attention that came, you know, well, where did I stand on this, or where did I stand on that? And you all should know, I mean, Steve Tabachman got me into this mess. So Steve Tabachman convinces me to run for office, like in 2008, and I was like, I don't want to do it, Steve, that's selling out. And he's like, are you calling me a sellout? I was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just like, I don't know, I'm different. And he's like, Rashida, we can be the same people we are if we run for office. You don't have to change anything about it. Do you see me changing? I'm like, no, you just wear suits. But I mean, it's just important because, you know, he's one of the only ones, I mean, he was, out of all of the members of the state house, he was the only one fighting on immigrant rights. I don't know if you all know that. He was the only one that fought for immigrant rights. Driver's licenses, workers' comp for undocumented workers that literally had brain injuries. He pushed back and killed 83 anti-immigrant bills. I was there, I worked for him. I mean, those are the incredible things that Steve Tabachman did when he was there. And he says, Sissy, you're not selling out. You're just in there, and you're able to get these things done. But when it comes to Palestine, I feel like it is that work that's done here where my cousin says to me, as soon as, you know, I tell her, I can't believe Siti said that. Oh my God, now, you know, Palestine's not free because I got elected. And she goes, but you know, Rashida, like Palestinians gave up on the United States. They like gave it up until you won. They gave up on the I'm trying to talk as close to the mic. They gave up on the United States because they were just done. They were like, they don't care. They think we should all die. That's the image. She was like Shireen, you know, my cousin Shireen was like, we just thought, okay, they don't care. The Americans don't care that we're dying. They don't care. And she goes, when you got elected, they're like, wait, maybe they do care. Because she knows, and I don't know if you all know, I don't represent Dearborn or big Muslim community. I represent majority of my neighbors are black, white, Latino, like 5% Arab. Majority of my neighbors who do not share my ethnicity or my faith voted for me and made history in electing me, right? That is something so beautiful and so profound that people don't even realize, right? But when my cousin said that to me, I said to her, but Shireen, the majority of Americans they believe in conditioning. They believe in all these. They believe in accountability. They don't believe this should happen and continue. They know it's wrong. And she's like, but it doesn't seem like that. I said, but Congress is not, and it's unfortunate, is not reflective of what the majority of American people believe. It really isn't. The majority of American people believe, and I do believe it in my heart, and I hear, I mean, there's been polls and all this stuff if you want to follow that. They don't believe in allowing full unconditional aid that leads to killing of Palestinian children, people, and all these things that you see continually happening in Israel. So I say that to you all because when United We Dream, which is DACA Dreamers, these are dreamers that started United We Dream, check them out, they're an amazing national organization. When their board met, they thought it was that important, they added Palestinian liberation to one of their key issues that they were going to work on. To me, that's how we're going to be able to truly be able to expose, at least center on Palestinian voices to understand no one's going to feel safe in Palestine and Israel until everyone is safe. And so I really think that is what gives me hope. It's not my colleagues in Congress, unfortunately. I think it's the movement work that's happening that gets people like me elected and others, and it's organic in many ways, right? So I just want you to know that. I mean, I again, some of my colleagues there have been there for 3 or 4, really 20, 30 years. I say this lovingly, they're so disconnected, so incredibly disconnected and conditioned to say certain things because that's just what it is, because then they won't have to hear it, get bullied or intimidated or being seen a certain way. And then here we come where it's like black women are like, well, I know what it feels like to feel othered and discriminated against, I know, I'm Puerto Rican. I know what I know what that feels like, right? And so I think, again, it's a lot of my colleagues with those lived experiences that come with that and understanding that connection with the Palestinian cause.
Okay, Henry, this will be our last question. Go ahead.
First of all, I think the settlements in the West Bank are a disgrace, and I think that it's terrible policy. My question is this. Palestinians complain about Israeli occupation of the West Bank, but Palestinians who are here are living in a land that was unfairly taken from the Native Americans. So is it fair for Palestinians here not to recognize that in one way or another, they're doing what the Israelis are doing to them?
Yeah, I think that the work that I've done in recognizing indigenous communities and all those kind of things, we acknowledge the lands that we're on always, especially in if you've done organizing work in Detroit, we always acknowledge it right at the beginning that we are on stolen land. But we also bring them into space with us. I have a beautiful indigenous community that started a clinic in Southwest Detroit. We bring them into space. We allow them to lead conversations around this form of oppression, this kind of absolutely. But we allow them to be in that space to acknowledge that it actually happened and that it's painful and that we need to be able to, that's the same thing with my black neighbors. We always talk about reparations. We always center around the fact that, many of my black neighbors' ancestry were forced onto this land in a way that I don't think we've ever been able to truly acknowledge or be able to heal. And I think reparations is the way to a pathway forward on that. But absolutely, I think it's important not to blame, because I don't do this to Israelis or to blanketly say Palestinians don't, or that is not true. And so be careful in those kind of general big statements of, because I know for my father, he didn't feel like he had anywhere to go. His father was here, he came here, right? My mother, they fell in love, got married in 2 weeks, that was crazy, but that's why they didn't have a healthy marriage, but it's okay. But they again, all of us have these stories, and I think just honoring those stories, honoring that, but don't blanket. I think it's really, really dangerous to blanketly say all Palestinians this or that. One of the most profound conversations I ever had was a gentleman that helped start an organization called Break the Silence, the former Israeli Defense Forces. It was an amazing organization. And I said, you're amazing. I was like, how do we get like a movement there with Palestinians and Israelis talking like this, right? And he goes, it's hard, Rashida, because my father, you ever heard of the term never again? I said, yeah. And he goes, but my father experienced, it's this place of fear. Never again will we ever feel that, we will ever be that weak, we ever allow us ever to happen again, right? Never again. Where for him, his son is never again to anyone, right? And it was just like one of those aha moments for me. I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Because to me, I don't ever want to look at his father and say, oh my God, no, he's scared. He's so incredibly afraid. And that's not to apologize for those that continue to allow the status quo continue to exist, because it is painful and hurtful, and leaving generations of Palestinians there with so much trauma. And I don't know how we resolve all of that. It won't probably be in our lifetime, but I want us to acknowledge those kinds of, I think, experiences and so forth, but I don't ever blanketly say, oh, no. I say Israeli leadership. Barbara always goes, Israeli government. I was like, I got you. That's right. It's not, because the story that gave me hope during the last time from the bombing in Gaza and everything that was happening is NPR had talked about an Israeli woman of Jewish faith and an Israeli woman that was Palestinian, citizen of Israel, and they were underneath the stairway. I don't know if you heard this story. They were underneath the stairs, and the Israeli woman of Jewish faith was hugging the Palestinian children, the mother of and just they were hovering over. That is like we're all not safe until we acknowledge that humanity and understanding. But we're done.
Thank you so very much. Thank you to everybody here tonight. We're going to just have a closing song. I don't know if you'd have time to join us for some snacks.
Oh, yeah. No,
but,
thank you again for allowing me to share space with all of you. And please know, you don't have to go through Renee to get to me. but you can go through Renee to get to me. But I really, again, I can't thank you all enough for allowing me to be here.
Actually, I have to go through it.
Okay.
Ezra. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to watch your calendar for Congressman Andy Levin's appearance sometime in January, we hope. And thank you, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, for your time tonight. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.